Good morning, everybody. How you all doing? What's up? Trail Dust in first, followed by Bortagov, and then Paul Orchard, Rob Huff, James Bew. What's up, little Bew? And I guess Ben Toombs is here too. When can we get the manatee fart as the waiting screen? Get on that. What do I get paid for? Wait, you get paid? And hello to all the lurkers out there. Today, obviously, I'm solo, so Alexis is on the way to a rig site, which is out in the middle of nowhere and has no signal and driving and all that fun stuff. And of course, this is Adam's off week. What's up, Mr. Killian? So we are going to be continuing our topic of forges, but as the first week we talked about, just getting started, hole in the ground or a blower on a campfire or whatever. The next week we talked, or last week we discussed building up a dirt box forge, a J-bod, or the various types of that using, something of a more permanent solution like a wash basin forge or a, steel barrel forge. I believe we even discussed using brake rotors and brake drums and stuff like that. Um, with to kind of piggyback on that real quick. Oh wait, I'm totally screwing up. I'm forgetting the how was your week? Yeah, that'd be real quick here. What's up, John Burnell, Dragonstone? What's up, Crawdaddy? Mr. Whitney, good morning, good morning. Um, my week, busy at work and uh, pretty busy in the project that I'm working on, the Decent Gamers Guild, or the Decent Gamers project that I'm working on. And yeah, I had a long meeting last night with a developer and my team and discussing some of the stuff that can and can't be done, and then we decide on some stuff and get the smart contract made. So woohoo. um but yeah, getting back to the topic, I don't know if I've got a full hour of this topic, but I do have Mr. John Burnell and Trail Dust in the chat, in the voice chat with me, so they can give their opinions as well and give their experiences, because that's kind of what we're talking about today is after you've upgraded from your, JBOD or where do you go from there? Obviously, you think, oh, I got to make metal. And keep in mind, a lot of this is talking about solid fuel forges. Because, in my opinion, making a DIY propane forge, excuse me, a DIY propane forge, you're pretty much following the roughly same design as any of the purchased forges. It's just you're doing it yourself. So it's like the designs, while they have a few variations, um, it's like it's roughly the same. Whereas that you can get pretty creative with a solid fuel forge. Um, so Council of Robs. Hi, Mr. Lonis. But yeah, so upgrading from your dirt box forge, you have things like the brake drum. Was commonly called the brake drum forge. It's actually the rotor. um, and you can take that as your simple forge body. In my experience, that the hole for it where you attach for the tweer, it's just really big, and then them being cast, it's hard to weld. I mean, obviously, if you have a welder, you probably upgrade further from just using a piece of cast iron. But it's, unless you're pretty good at fabrication, because I know you could probably take and make a little circle that fits in there with the a grill, to keep the coals from just falling through. Um, Let me see. Should we get an arena? What? Shush. um, But yeah, with you got the fire pot is obviously one aspect, just one aspect of the DIY metal forges. You also have to consider, the forge, the hood, or the coal shelves, and the rest of the body of the forge, what holds the fire pot. So, Mr. Burnell, yeah, I've seen brake drums used as well as rotors. Yeah, I mean, I've seen brake drums, like these big brake drums being used, but they're pretty deep. A rotor is simple because it has a big wide flange, the rotor itself, and then it's got the hub that connects, which is, dropped down a few inches, a couple inches, at an inch at whatever. Good morning, Roy. But those make a nice like rivet style forge. It's like a ready to go inset. Uh, but yeah, um, you can take a rotor or a brake drum and you can fit it in if uh, you've got a junkyard around, or if your backyard is a junkyard like mine is, you can go digging through piles and find, old lawnmowers, and you can rip out the guts of that and use the lawnmower body as your forge table, so to speak. Your the body of your forge, and you just inset your fire pot into that. Toss on some legs, and boom, there you go. You know, um, I've seen quite a few of those, and they look kind of neat. They have that, like, I built this look, and they're actually pretty decent. You know, so those are fun. Drums have a different use case, self-feeding, but requires access ports to be functional. Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're really deep. Um, hey, Shane. Um, but yeah, so sorry, I'm getting lost in the chat. This always happens when I'm solo. Like, I end up just, because it's what I do when I have the others with me. It's like I read the chat and I respond to the chat while they talk science and history, and then it's like I hear something and I crack a joke, and that's my role. So, um, I also double brewed my coffee today, so I'm a little extra jittery. Uh, but yeah, so when you're first starting out, here's the thing. When you're first starting out, um, in your mind, you don't know if you're gonna like it. You don't know if you're gonna keep doing it. You don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on it. And with that, like, it's like, even when you get to the step up where, you kind of like it, like, and you're working towards improving your setup, you still kind of don't want to spend too much money on it for whatever reason. If you'll excuse me, I gotta blow my nose. Um, you don't want to, whether it's either A, you're of the mindset of like, oh, uh, let my hobby start making money so it can pay for itself, or B, you've got a significant other and/or financial situation where, you know what, it won't let you. Um, you digging through the junkyards for anything you can use is pretty much where you go. I mean, by the point that you're about ready to upgrade your just a box of dirt forge, and kind of upgrade your setup, by that point you very likely have, joined communities. You've found these videos. You've met some of us, or just learned how to search on iforgediron.com, the forum site full of um but yeah, it's you're at that point where you know what to look for, but you're still building your tool base. You may not have a welder just yet, and you may not know to go to a scrapyard as opposed to a junkyard and find plate steel that you can cut up and put together something. Let me see. I'm going to get back to the chat here for a second. There's a lot of conversation going on. I streamed for almost, this is Rob Huff. I streamed for almost 7 hours Friday. What I learned was I don't get anything done while streaming. It's easy to get off track. Absolutely. Listening on Discord is like watching a poorly dubbed movie. Yeah. Getting distracted by the camera and people on the other end is definitely a problem when streaming. Look at me. I'm getting distracted right now. John Burnell. I have also seen brake drums off smallish cars used as well for fire pots. Seems like less these days, and I wonder if it's cause I clicked on stuff and now it's seems like less these days. I wonder if it's because almost no cars use brake drums anymore. Could be. Hey, Mr. Speargrass. Double O negative. And bigger is not always better. Efficiency should be taken into account. Yes, I will get into that as well. Mr. Roy says, definitely not as easy as people like to think, talking to Rob about streaming. Rotors are good. Rotors work pretty well. You know, more of a rivet forge base than or forge fire pot than anything else. Shane Alone, disc brakes are large enough for short people. Yep, there you go. That's for Ben. Speargrass. On that note, I have plans in the new book for forges, so stay tuned. Lol, fingers crossed for this year. Yep. All right. I keep clicking on it and it pulls up a thing that covers the chat. Yeah. But yeah, where was I? So yeah, at this, at the point that if you're following along or if you're going through your beginner's journey, you definitely find people who can connect you with, like when you first start, you don't know where to look. You don't know, like, you have an idea, but you don't know how to look. You don't know what to look for. You don't know what questions to ask. Like, for example, a fresh-faced beginner YouTuber blacksmith guy from the UK, not Danley Moose, was watching some of my earlier videos about building a fire pit and all that stuff, and he went to the junkyard and came back with a bunch of HVAC pieces and an old bike frame, and he cut the bike frame up and was using the tube from the bike frame as the tweer and metal tape to connect that to a 4-inch by 3-inch or 4-inch by 2-inch HVAC adapter, vent adapter, and a stainless steel shower drain as the grill, as the grate for the coal, and the forge table was an HVAC pan for under a furnace, all like 16 or 22 gauge steel and galvanized and lit up in a backyard in a crowded suburban, subdivision. And it's like in the video, you can hear the kids playing, you see the cloud of yellow smoke, and he's like, yeah, Island Metal Forge taught me how to do this. I was like, no, I didn't. Don't use galvanized. But beginners don't know this, and this is what all of this is talking about. Is like how to ask questions and what to look for. Christ-centered Ironworks. You and me, Yamez, must be on the same wavelength this year. Just bought in a ton of cheap beginner forges and tooling to review. Oh, absolutely. It's like beginner. It's like Roy, the way we kind of thought about this year is, the past few years we've seen that influx of like, I want to make a knife, and Forged in Fire, yay, I want to be on Forged in Fire, and you and I have talked about it, long in the past, how this bubble will end up bursting, and what we'll have left, all the you know the people who are just in it for the popularity, like, oh, this is popular right now, are going to kind of fizzle out, and we're going to have less people getting into it. But the people who are getting into it are getting into it not because of a TV show, but more because they really find it interesting, and again, caveat, not everybody who gets into it because of Forged in Fire is like that, and not everybody who will be getting into it not about Forged in Fire is like that. It's a general statement is just that, Um, so yeah, this year is talking about kind of building up through, from the idea to, hey, let's do some fancy stuff. And the first part of the year is going to be all about beginner setups, and discussing that. So if you're doing the same thing this year, it's like, yeah, it's let me see. That's awesome. Rob Huff, outside of not letting yourself get distracted, camera switching is hard, y'all. Yeah, and you know what, Rob? I have what I did when I was doing camera switching out in the shop before I said screw it, and just a main camera and then a side camera up in the corner, I did I had a wireless keypad, and I hotkeyed, all my different scene transitions onto it. It's like a cheap man's version of the Stream Deck. And, so it's like press one to switch cameras, or to switch the scenes and sources and stuff, press two to switch back, and it's like all that stuff, and I'd keep that off to the side, or I'd like have it in a pocket so that I could just reach in and switch. When you don't have a Jess, that's what you got to do. I hear you. I had those thoughts too, Rob. Hey, Eric. Save up your money, folks. There's going to be a lot of discount tooling in the future when that bubble pops. Yup. 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 See, now, though, Roy, I will say, and I know this is a side tangent, but I will say what you're going to see is all these people who spent way too much on an anvil is going to want to try and get, at the very least, what they got out of it. Like when they spent way too much on something, they don't want to lose money on it. So, either A, they'll be like, well, I ain't selling it for less than $2,000 a pound because that's what I paid for it. So it's just going to sit there, It's like, so it's going to be a while before that price goes down, you know. I got a thing, but I just keep forgetting to hit the button. Right, Rob? Yeah, absolutely. Robert, did you see your jellyfish made a stream or made an appearance in Roy's live stream last Friday? I did not. My Fridays have been very busy lately. It's like I'm either over at my brother's, they're over here, or we've got stuff going on. I'm in meetings after work in the evenings, because some of the people that are on my team are, in not Atlantica, Antarctica, Alaska. Some people are over in Alaska, and then I got people, in basically Pacific Coast time and Central. So all of my business after work is conducted like between the hours of 6 and midnight. So I really don't get a lot of time. I will have to roll back and watch it though. Um, Atem Mini Pro is the device I use. Yeah, see, I just picked up like a $4.99 um, numpad, wireless numpad, and I use that. Um, I am hooking again, yes, but exactly, John. Thank you. Back on the topic of homemade forges. You have the ability to unmute and say, "Well, that was good enough. Let's talk more about blacksmithing." I know John is the whoosh kind of person who says, "No, you will talk about what you said you're going to talk about. That's what we're here for." Um, but yeah, so where was I? Yeah, as you go through the learning process, learning what uh you need to look for and learning what works. Uh Obviously you learn quickly to stay away from galvanized materials. And you find things like black pipe works, the black iron pipe, plumbing pipes, uh and finding the different forge bodies, using, like we talked about, the tractor or the mower deck from a lawnmower. Um, I've seen some really cool stuff with the Harbor Freight 2 shelf carts, like the small carts, the small red carts, where somebody will cut in a fire pot into one of those, whether it's a bought from like Fiery Furnace Forge, like a Dave Custer fire pot, or just a simple brake rotor dropped in there, and then the fan and everything sits on the base of it. You could wheel it around, and I've seen people take and do that, and then build a fire brick on top of that, and then set it on that. So it's like, insulated, and it's just a table, coal, boom. And another one I wanted to talk about isn't quite metal, but I just brought up fire. I'm getting blown away by this freaking wind here. It just got real windy, and my windows are open. Um, Fire brick. That's something that it's like, around me, the only place that I can get fire brick is ordering it online, and it's not cheap to order it online. So I would go when I go to Quad State. I pick up a case of fire brick every time I go, just to have one. Um, but an interesting upgrade from a just a box of dirt is something called a Whitlock forge, and I found this early in my research, and I never built one, but I thought it was fascinating. It's basically a V of metal with a tube with a hole in it, or several holes in it, and then fire bricks, you know, lining it, and boom, you just throw some wood, charcoal, or coal in there, and boom, you have a forge. It's an open-sided, probably really good for heat treating swords and whatnot, because you can make it as long or as short as you want it. Very simple forge. Um, Robert Lona says, anybody else used a boiler door for a bowl in the forge? I've never even seen a boiler door, so no. Um, yeah. Yeah, and Rob Huff brings up a good point. He says, I've been relatively spoiled in terms of forges. The RCBA casts a really nice fire pot. Um, I will say, it is true that, some people are in that area where it's like every guy and their mother has forges. The guilds are very active, and you know, uh, they have a very strong blacksmithing community that's easy to find in in a lot of areas though, like when you're a fresh start beginner, you don't even know that, you don't even think to, like when I first started, I didn't even know that blacksmithing was still a thing. I didn't know that blacksmith guilds existed. I didn't know about a banner. I didn't know that there was, literature out there for me to look into other than like the olden day texts, um but yeah, so um Larkin Refractory in Georgia is where I ordered mine. It was pretty cost effective. What's up, Pogi? Um, but yeah, um, away from the Whitlocks, the fire brick thing is just another. It's another one of those like, you know, like coal. If you don't know where to get it, you'll end up overspending on it. Because it's like you try to find what will work for you, and either you'll overspend by ordering it from like Amazon, or you'll use the wrong item. Like, oh well, if those red bricks are work in chimneys, so they'll obviously work with this. It's like no 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 no. But yeah, so it's the big thing is learning where to find what will work, or learning to find something and what will work. If you have a welder and a way to cut metal, grinder and a welder, I mean, even if it's an oxyacetylene, and you stepped up to the point where, you know what, tearing apart cars at a junkyard is just kind of like, okay, too time consuming, or like not up your alley. You can find welding shops in your area, and most welding shops have a scrap bin, or a that you can order steel from them or something. And ordering steel, you'll find out how much new steel actually costs. um, You'd be both surprised at the expense and surprised at the savings, because like if you go to Home Depot and you buy you know uh, some of the steel that they have, to go to a big box store, you're paying, you know, I'll use bar stock as an example. Like a half-inch square bar stock over at Home Depot is like, you know, $15 or so for a 4-foot section. You go to a steel supply and you can get a 10 to 20 foot length of half-inch square stock for like $25, $30, or whatever. Like, it's when you buy it from the right place, you'll spend a lot less money. And as you're going through the journey to learn, you'll find that out. And the faster that you find that out, the more money you can save. So my point being is, when you go to these scrap yards, these steel scrap yards, not just a junkyard, you'll see plate steel that they've used for cutouts, for what they do. And you can find, like, oh, if they do some big stuff, you'll see some like, 1/4 inch or half-inch plate or 3/8 plate laying around that's like, I don't know, like 2 foot by 2 foot, and you'll find a whole bunch of that. Oh, we can't use that for anything, so they sell it for scrap prices, and you can walk away with a nice chunk of steel in the bed of your truck that didn't cost you an arm and a leg. And then you cut that up. You can look up some templates for sizing, or you can do the math yourself on your angles and how it would look when it's 3D, and build your own fire pot. And I will say, if you don't have a welder, what I did was I looked around for the cheapest welders around, and got a stick welder, a Tombstone stick welder. The Was it Lincoln Electric arc welder, stick welder? They're commonly called Tombstones because that's their shape. The very famous red one. And pick yourself up some rods and go to town. Like, look up some fire pot designs and slap some scrap metal together and build yourself a Frankenforge. And that's, if you do it with some decent steel to begin with, a decent, size plate to begin with. Like, I believe mine was 3/8, and I've used it for I don't know, 4 years, 5 years now, at least 6 years maybe. Hey, D Nice, tell Bob he needs to come and visit. um, But yeah, I have gotten that forge, that fire pot to the point, when I was working on hammers or Damascus, where the outside of that fire pot is glowing, glowing, and it's still in decent condition. Um, so you can either Franken forge it like I did. I did kind of like an octagon shaped forge because when I first did it, it's like I suck at math. So when I first did it, I tried to math it out so that four pieces would have like a nice fire pot like that, and it ended up like that. So I had to like cut out a bunch of different triangles and get it a bit shallower. But it worked. And I welded a flange around it. It looks like crap, but it works. You know. Um, Let me see. Let me get to the chat and read a little bit. Still talking about RCBA. Um, doesn't Jack have one of the Whitlocks? I believe he does. Yeah, the V allows cooking wood to charcoal in the forge. A Whitlock forge is designed, as I understand it, is you basically pile logs onto it. Logs. You pile wood onto it, and as it burns in the middle, it self feeds. Turning. So you have raw wood feeding into charcoal, and then you use the middle. You don't stir it around and all that stuff. The V self feeds the fuel. Um, Let me see. Greg Hagen from Holland Anvil picked up 3 of them for me last year. Such a good dude. What's that, Rob? I'm missing. I'm missing on a lot of conversation. What's up, James Jones? Let me see. John Burnell. I do a lot of stocking by going to Alro and looking through their remnants and drop forges. All right, so you got to tell us what Alro is, okay? And drop forges. I meant drops. I assume Alro is a welding company near you. What's up, Mr. Corey? Oh, 3 fire pots from the RCBA. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. You're talking about the RCBA cast fire pots. Alro steel. Okay. See, you guys are talking about Alro steel. I assume you guys are up in like the Rust Belt up there, like where steel suppliers are. Like I have one steel supplier near me that's High Tech Recycling, and one of their locations does fabrication, so they store steel and will order it and sell it to you. But I don't have like a steel supply shop around here because it's all shipped in. It's like the steel yard or the shipyards in Virginia. It's like they're not sharing theirs. The same with their coal. You drive across the Monitor Merrimack Bridge, or you drive across the Hampton Roads bridge, and you drive over it and you look over to the side, and it's like there's mountains of coal, mountains of like coal the size of freaking 4 city blocks and piled as high as some of the buildings, but you can't touch it. It's not for you. um, yeah. And it's also an hour drive to my steel supplier. 45-minute drive. But they kind of screwed me over on my last purchase. I bought some scrap steel, and they had told me that it was going to be a certain price, and then what they told the lady at the register was like double, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm paying $20 for this, 15-inch piece of steel. Why? You know, and it's like, yeah, it's weird. You know, I mean, I was looking for something specific to be lazy instead of forging something that I have out to the dimensions that I needed. So it's like I just wanted to go grab a real quick piece of steel, and it was like, why is this $20? You know, And yes, trail dust. That's what I was saying. If you have welding and repair shops and fabrication shops in your area, very likely they will have drops in steel and be able to order you steel. I mean, you may not be paying wholesale price, you may be paying retail price for it, but it's still, you can get what you're looking for. They have contacts with the steel suppliers, or they can guide you to them and be like, hey, if you just drive a little bit that way, you'll find where we buy our steel from. But that's the whole point of what we're talking about is when you first get started, you don't know any of this. All of you in the chat, you know all this already. This is stuff these are battles that you've already won. You know, when you're fresh faced and bright eyed and that sweet summer child, you don't know any of this. So you think that going to Home Depot and grabbing steel is the best option. You think that going to the junkyard and pulling apart a car is the best it's going to get. It's not. And if you're listening to this or watching this in the future, it gets better. Don't get discouraged and be like, well, I can't find anything and I can't find anybody that wants to share with me. It's like, you know what, keep at what you're doing, but always keep improving. You know what I mean? Always keep looking. Tell everybody that you're getting into it, and you never know. Somebody that you have spoken to every day for the past 20 years might be like, oh yeah, I know somebody who does blacksmithing. Yeah, they've got a full shop and they know all their stuff, blah blah blah. It's cool that you're doing it. And you're like, well, give me their info, introduce me. Because you never know who you're gonna meet that can help you find the steel that you need to improve your game. Because when you're getting into a hobby that you find that you love, nothing better than improving in it. You don't want to be stuck at using scrap crap steel all the time. It does work, but it is that psychological thing where if you improve your tools and if you improve your setup, you feel that you're improving rather than being a junkyard king. I am not downplaying junkyard kings. I've seen amazing things come out of some crappy setups, what I would consider crappy setups. But when you look back at history, like we've spoken about all last year, some of the most amazing things have been done with some of the most, what we would consider like rinky-dink setups. I mean, look at Denise Barrett. She doesn't even have a forge, and she can do amazing things. But then also look at Rob Huff, who's got an amazing setup, and I can't even make a joke about making fun of him. I was gonna say, and can't even make a nail, but yeah, he can. Yep. Some crappy things out of amazing setups. That's what I was gonna say. It's not your setup that makes you. It's that psychology of it. It's that you know what, like I'm embarrassed to show off my setup, even though I'm really good at this. I'm embarrassed to show off my setup. It's that matter of pride. You wanna have something that looks nice, But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't. The tools don't make the smith. The smith makes the tools, and if you can make do with, what you would consider a crappy setup, but you put out some really good work because that's what you're working on. That's what your focus is on, learning how to blacksmith, not learning how to build a forge, at the end of the day. I'm sorry, Denise. But yeah, CDA Metals is awesome. 50 cents per pound, no matter what it is. 41.40 all day. Woof woof. Bow wow. Yeah, right, Ben Toombs. I probably can't make a nail. We stopped forging nails in the late 1700s. Right? Yeah. You and me both, brother. Us Eldricks. you know, have to get with the times. You know, the stuff that I did in the 1700s, I can't do today. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Um, Big hug, D nice. I assume you still have the hammer that I made you. And for those of you who are listening in the future, either through the podcast or finding this video on YouTube randomly and going, I'll give that a shot. I'll watch that video. Thank you. A and B. This is recorded live. It is one of my Saturday or Sunday morning live streams. And we talk blacksmithing in all its glory. And we have a wonderful community that you can hear me chatting to right now, that if you are needing to find people in the area, there are people all over the world watching right now that may be able to help you out. So don't be afraid to join in communities. Don't be afraid to join in, these online communities. Social anxiety be damned. Get out there and say hi to people. You never know who might be just around the corner. My shop absorbs everything. So Ben Toom says, I made a titanium nail header for a class and my shop absorbed it somehow. Yeah, my shop absorbs everything. There you go, Denise. But yeah, I like I said, coming up with the upgrade as you upgrade it's important, you know, um, both for your peace of mind of being able to show off what you got. I guess this is kind of my final thought on it, you know, um, being able to show off what you got and say, yeah, it almost feels like an outsider to the community would look at your setup and be like, ugh, you know, whereas if they see your setup, they assume you can do good stuff, and it's like if you can do good stuff and you have a nice setup, um, you're able to kind of show off a little bit better in here. In here it makes sense to you, but you really, really don't need um, a full store bought badass setup to be a good blacksmith. And I know Bob will let me back out there once we get his shop set up. So he'll untie you and let you go. Oh, too funny. Um, Rob Huff. I made about 6 round eye punches last year, and I found one Friday. And you're convinced that it was the worst one. Right. But yeah, so um I really, really don't have much more to go into without beating a dead horse about, forges. We talked about everything about, having a campfire and just using a leaf blower to beef it up, um, or digging a hole in the ground, or taking that hole in the ground and raising it up as a J-bod, to making a bit more of a permanent setup with the wash basin, wash tub forge, brake drum forges, um, Whitlock forges, and the various things that can be used as a forge table and a forge setup. Any way that you can attach a hood if you're indoors, a hood and a vent stack, which I'm sure we'll get into chimneys and vent stacks again down the line. um yeah, so the next step from a build it yourself forge would be um either going to somebody who is a professional fabricator and having them build one for you, or going online to like centaurforge.com or blacksmithsupply.com or any of those places, or Fiery Furnace Forge. with Dave Custer over there and ordering a pre-made, ready-to-go forge setup, you know. Right, Denise? But yeah, no, next week is next month, and I believe we have something for next month, and we have it written down. I can give you a bit of a sneak peek into that before we end the show today. Check pinned messages. No pinned messages. All right. I did pin the message, but you can't see it. All right. Fuels. We will be talking February fuels, different forge fuels. You know, so we'll be talking about making your own charcoal. We'll be talking about sourcing coal and the proper types of coal. We will be talking about, you know, charcoal briquettes, you know, scrap wood in the yard, 2x4s, you know. And that's just an interesting topic because blacksmiths will burn anything. You know, blacksmiths will burn anything to get what they need done. You know, like, so, did your wife overcook the food? Use it as forge fuel, you know? Anything can be used to heat steel. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week, starting next week and next month. I believe it's next week. Yeah. So, all right. Mr. Bill Corey, been using my portable for around 7 years now. I was pretty sure I'd have to make modifications after a couple, but it's still holding up. Absolutely. It's surprising what you think would just fall apart right away, and then it ends up lasting forever. You know, I thought I would have to be, you know, upgrading my fire pot within a year, and it's still going. I might have to upgrade my tweer because that is kind of falling apart, and I do want to build a clinker breaker into it. But I mean, the pot is still holding up. And on the subject, tonight is I believe it's my brother's birthday, Josh's birthday. So tonight I will be there. I wasn't going to go live anyway tonight. But I really, really, really do want to get back to going live again. It's just, I'm getting that itch that I really need to be out there, but it's just that time, you know. I can't speak on induction because I've never even I've only ever seen induction in videos. So it's like I can't speak on it. If next week or next month or sometime throughout this year, somebody who knows and uses and works with induction forges would like to come onto the show and talk about them, I'd love to listen, you know. Shut up, John. You've got it. You know, Rob, after you've used it a bit and played with it a bit, we would love to have you on the show to hear your. I mean, did I say John? Rob. Yeah, I think I said Rob. Get John Switzer. You know, I used to talk with John Switzer a lot. I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years. He's just such a busy guy, and you know. I could try if one of you guys wants to reach out to John Switzer and say, "Hey, can you come over to Impractical Blacksmiths and chat about your induction forge?" You know, this is a community show that's run by the community. You guys can help. Love to have him. But yeah. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a show today. I don't know, it's dark out there. I'm gonna call it tonight. So, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and call that. And I believe this has been a helpful episode for anybody just jumping in. Um, Leave a like on it, and if you liked what you heard, and you're hearing this after the fact, after the live, um, and you have any questions, feel free to email us over at impracticalblacksmiths@gmail.com, or join the Discord server, which is in the description of every video, and kind of hang out. There's a few people in there that ask questions and answer questions and chit chat. Fairly regularly. It's not a super busy Discord, so it's not like overwhelming, you know. But yeah, it is great to see everybody again, and I will see you all next week. We will have Adam and Alexis here with us to talk fuel. So you guys all take it easy and have a great day. And yeah, bye.